Black Power, Black Beauty, Black by popular demand. This is Black's History Month, a 28-day celebration of Black exploitation films. Blaxploitation movies rarely get remade for some reason. A lot of them are long overdue for one, but the only ones that come to mind are Ganja and Hess, which was remade into The Sweet Blood of Jesus, Shaft, even though I just discussed that movie is actually a sequel. The Wash was technically a remake of Car Wash, and now SuperFly, even though for some reason it's titled as one word instead of two like the original. Don't really know the reason for that, unless they thought, like a lot of other people, that the character was called SuperFly, instead of it being used to describe the style like the 70s version. The original SuperFly is probably one of the most misrepresented movies from the era, and a lot of people who've never seen it still believe that it's about a pimp, since nearly every element of it has been co-opted by pimp culture for some reason. Thankfully, the people who made SuperFly 2018 actually watched the 70s movie and presented a pretty decent modern day version of A Tale About the Drug Game. SuperFly 2018, as I'll call it, is less a remake and more accurately a modern update. Aside from a change of scenery from New York to Atlanta and a few additions, not much is different in this version. Even the majority of the names are the same, so it's not one of those situations where they tried to make the movie as different as possible so as not to completely copy it. The 2018 movie definitely pays a ton of homage to the 72 version though. SuperFly 2018 stars Trevor Jackson as Youngblood Priest. Just like the original SuperFly, he decides to get out of the drug game after experiencing a traumatic event, robbery in the original, and almost getting shot in the new movie. Jackson is a lot younger than Ron O'Neal was in the original, but he has such a great presence that he comes across as one of the oldest and wisest men in the movie, despite being a lot younger than everybody else. He's really not that much different than the original Priest. He is way less aggressive, which clashes with the idea of him being a big-time drug lord, supposedly the biggest in the city, but everything else is almost spot on. The whole reason the old Priest was called SuperFly was because he dressed flashy in the latest fashion, and new Priest has that covered. The original Priest also knew karate, even though it was downplayed almost entirely. In the new version though, Priest is damn near Jackie Chan on that ass. I like that. I always felt like it added a cool dimension to the character that the original missed out on, and also gave the 2018 movie a reason to do more action. Speaking of the karate, both versions show Priest learning what he knows in a dojo, but in the new movie, he learns it from his mentor and drug supplier, Scatter, played by Michael K. Williams. In the original, the dojo was just a throwaway place with no real bearing on the story, and Scatter, although still the supplier, actually ran a nightclub. That's probably one of the biggest deviations. Everybody else is almost spot on from their 1972 counterparts, with very little change in how they're presented. There's Eddie, Priest's partner and best friend, played by Jason Mitchell, who we're introduced to in the same exact way in both movies, while gambling. And in both versions, he doesn't agree with Priest's decision. There's Fat Freddy, who in both versions is a screw-up. There's even a Georgia and a Cynthia in both versions, Priest's girlfriend and mistress. Only in this movie, they aren't mysteries to each other. Nope. In something that seems very appropriate for a 2018 movie, all three live happy together in one house. That's actually more realistic for a drug dealer, to be honest. Even though the movie recycles a lot of the plot and characters from the old movie, it does just enough to make itself stand out from it also. For one thing, the style and cinematography is excellent. It just looks like a movie with a way bigger budget, which it obviously is, and I kept thinking to myself, it kind of reminds me of the way Belly was shot. Then I do more research and learn that the Director X, primarily did music videos before this movie. And who was his mentor? Hype Williams, the director of Belly. Just like the first movie, the style stands out, and I'm glad they put some time and effort into it. The movie is Atlanta on steroids, and I love everything about it. And no, not just because I'm from Georgia. My favorite thing about it when it comes to how stylish it is the competing drug guys called the Snow Patrol. Just look at these guys, decked out in all white everything. They got white clothes, white cars, white guns. Disappointingly though, no white girls, unless you count the cocaine. I thought that would have been kind of a funny addition to keep with the theme. I also thought they did well with the story, introducing some new elements that the original implemented poorly or probably just didn't have the budget or runtime to implement at all. Most of the acting was also pretty good, and it flips some of what you know about the original in clever ways. It has some flaws though. One of them is the music. It was produced and written by Future, and kind of a callback to Curtis Mayfield doing the entire original soundtrack. But not every song is hitting like the original. It's got various artists on it, but no one song can be considered iconic. It even reuses Pusher Man from the original, which is a nice callback, but I wish it created its own original classic. Overall, it's a pretty good remake, but it's a low bar since there's not many remakes of these type of movies. It bombed commercially and critically, but I don't think that was because it's bad. I think it's because these days, drug empire movies and TV shows are a dime a dozen, whereas when SuperFly 1972 came out, a black drug life movie was kind of a novel idea. There was nothing to make SuperFly 2018 stand out, but as an update to a 46-year-old movie, I can confidently say that I think it stands on its own without even having to watch the original. Definitely watch the original though.